Welcome back to Operation Evil. I'm your host, Nyoka, and today I have Mandi as my co-host. Thank you for coming back on, Mandi.
It's me again. I used to be like, oh, please invite me back. Now I just force my way in here.
I love it. And I think this is the first time where it's just me and you.
Oh, it's gonna be so great.
So I love that. I love it. And just warning, I might butcher these names in this case, and I'm sorry in advance. I'm going to do my best. Just bear with me. And yeah, we're going to make it
I'll
happen.
help the best I can, but
Okay.
we tried to get the mysterious mustachio back on. We know you loved him, but he was busy tonight, unfortunately. But I'll try to help the best I can, but I'm not that great either.
Yeah, he would have been perfect for this, for sure.
Oh, I
You
know.
know what? I should have had him say the names, and then when the names come up throughout the story, I could have inserted his voice saying the name. Do you know what I'm saying?
Like a soundboard, like lizard.
Yes.
Lizard. Well, we'll have to do that. I hate that we didn't do that.
Why didn't I think of that before? Okay. So I'll just go ahead and jump right on in. On a quiet Sunday night in June 2010, the Yoyito restaurant in Hialeah, Florida, became the backdrop for a tragedy that would shock the community and the nation. What began as a domestic dispute quickly escalated into a horrifying act of violence, leaving 4 women dead and 3 others critically injured. This is the story of Gerardo Regalado, a man whose actions that night would forever alter the lives of many. Stay with us as we explore the chilling events of that fateful evening and the dark story behind his fatal actions. So he was born in Cuba and came to the US in 2006, despite being the half brother of former New York Yankees pitcher Orlando A. Duque Hernandez. His life was far from glamorous. At the age of 32, he was working as a carpenter and had a reputation for aggression and past relationships. His story begins with his meeting of 18-year-old, this I have no idea, Lee,
Liaison Molina.
thank you, whom he brought from Cuba to the United States in 2007, claiming that she was the love of his life. The couple settled in Florida, where she was studying to become an elementary school teacher. Despite warnings from family and friends, she went ahead and married him anyway. He had a history of violent behavior, having served time for assaulting a former girlfriend. Despite the red flags, she believed that marriage and a new life in America would change him, but things quickly took a darker turn. In 2010, after years of tension and emotional abuse, she decided to leave him. She moved out and began staying with friends at the Yoyito, is that how you say it? Yoyito restaurant,
I think it's Yoitos. Yeah.
where she worked as a waitress. The separation was the breaking point for him. He was known to struggle with emotional instability. His behavior worsened, as evidenced by increasingly dark posts on social media. In one post, he wrote, quote, "I'm stupid because I had everything and I threw it away. And my days have no sunshine. The nights have no stars," end quote. His despair and
Oh,
anger were palpable.
I hate when I hear women say that they think they could change him.
Yeah, what is
You
it
hear
with
that?
women? We think we can fix people or things will be different, and that's not the case.
Well, it's not just necessarily women too. I'm sure there's men that believe that about women too, because we are talking about a case of
That's
domestic
true.
violence. And domestic violence doesn't only affect women; it affects men too. But you hear it more common in women. But I hate when I hear that because anytime you hear that, it's always ends up being a tragic story.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't help too that we're like nurturers and we want to take care of people and Yeah, I don't know. I feel bad for her. She just ignored the flags like many of us do. Just days before the shooting, his social media post took an even darker turn. On May 30th, 2010, he posted, quote, "If you never need me, call me."
I think it was a direct quote from his Facebook, so I think that maybe his written English wasn't that great
Okay.
because that's how it was written.
It was clear that the relationship was over and he was spiraling into a dangerous place. Unfortunately, his emotional turmoil would soon erupt into violence. On June 6, 2010, he arrived at the restaurant just as his soon-to-be ex was finishing her shift. The two argued in the parking lot, and he was armed with a .45 caliber pistol. He shot and killed her. He then entered the restaurant, bypassing several men who stood motionless in shock and went straight for the women working inside.
I know, like I thought about this, and at first when I heard this, I was like, I got so mad because I was like, why didn't those men do something? But then you think about it, like I've been in the military for almost 9 years now, and I'm used to being around those people that are trained in situations like that to step up. But you gotta think as the average person, you don't see stuff like that and you freeze. And those men, they probably, you can't judge them. You weren't there, you didn't experience that yourself, but it had to be shocking. They probably didn't realize what they had just saw, so they just kind of stood there.
Yeah,
I
you
wanted
don't
to
know how you would react until you're in that position, and a lot of people would freeze.
Yeah, I wanted to be sure to mention that before people got angry at the bystanders, because that was a really big thing that was in a lot of these articles. Is like, oh, the men just stood there. They let it happen. I'm like, you never know. Like
Right.
they were scared, they
From
were shocked, they probably didn't realize what was happening. They froze, it's an automatic psychological response.
Yes, and from what I saw in researching it, it was like they were pointing this out to show that he aimed for the women and not the men.
Yeah.
And I think that's why they kept like bringing that up too, because that was
Yeah,
in almost
normally,
every article.
yeah, when you look at like a lot of the big stories on, serial killers and stuff like that, or domestic violence and stuff, and they really target one sex, again, not just women, but commonly women. When they really just target one, it's because they have some kind of historic experience that is causing them to really only target women. I can't remember who it was. One recently I read about is, men would say that he was a very kind and generous and friendly man, but when it came to women, he had a deep-seated hate for women and was just awful to women. And maybe there's
That's
something in his
interesting.
background. Yeah.
It reminds me, do you watch Mindhunter? Mindhunters, that show on Netflix?
I wa yeah, I watched it a while back.
I'm really behind in the game, but like you talking about that remind me of profiling, and I've been watching that, so it's on my mind. And just the psychological aspect of all this stuff is just fascinating. I just want to
Oh,
throw that out
Shatter and
there.
Douglas. Woot woot.
Yes,
I mentioned it in the last episode. Yeah, that's my jam.
I love it. I love it. So, in a rapid 21-second rampage, he shot and killed his soon-to-be ex and three of her co-workers. I'm gonna mess these names up.
So I think it's I'm probably gonna mess it up too, but it's Zeta Castillo, Maicel Figueroa, Lavina Fonseca, and three others, Yasmin Dominguez, Mayra de la Caridad Lopez, Coronado Fernandez.
Thank you so much. You did way better than I ever could. So those last three that she mentioned were injured but survived. And then he fled the scene only to be found dead a few blocks away from an apparent suicide. And the same weapon used in the killings was found in his hand. The crime shocked the community. The agent for his half-brother stated, quote, "This has taken everyone by surprise. We do not know what might have happened. He was a good kid," end quote. Yet the truth of his violent history had already been revealed, and his actions on that night were a tragic result of an unresolved emotional breakdown. The deaths of the four women and the injury of three others left the community mourning and asking the question, what drove him to such extreme violence? His relationship with her was a toxic and abusive one, and his actions spoke to a much larger issue, domestic violence. Their story is not just an isolated incident. It speaks to a much larger, often overlooked issue, domestic violence. Tragically, his actions are a reflection of a pervasive societal issue that affects millions of people every year.
Yeah, unfortunately, stories like this are common. So in 2010, Hialeah it was the second most populous municipality in Miami-Dade County, reporting four homicides among its 825 cases of domestic violence. That doesn't really sound like a lot, but think about it, four in 825. They're sobering, but they also underscore the fact that domestic violence is not just something that happens in isolated instances. It's an epidemic affecting individuals and families and communities across the country. Despite the attention brought to this issue over the years, domestic violence continues to rise. After a municipal prevention campaign helped to reduce the number of cases in 2011, the number of domestic violence incidents in Hialeah rose again in the following years. So by 2014, the number of cases had jumped to 899, a stark reminder that even when progress is made, the problem is far from solved. Nationally, domestic violence continues to affect people across all demographics, regardless of race, gender, or economic status. The National Domestic Violence Hotline reports that more than 2 million, sorry, 10, not 2, 10 million people in the United States experience domestic violence each year. This equates to nearly 1 in 4 women, so 25%, and 1 in 9 experiencing severe intimate partner violence during their lifetime.
That's so
Uh,
sad.
I know. So again, I go back to the, domestic violence, intimate partner violence. I think doesn't just happen to women, it happens to men too. It's just men are less likely to report, but I do want to encourage men to report it. Just because you're a man, it doesn't make you weak. It doesn't, make you a wuss, nothing like that. And most of the time, I applaud men because they don't fight back. They don't even try to protect themselves sometimes because a lot of men, won't hit a woman no matter what, and they don't protect themselves. And unfortunately, sometimes there is still that perception that if there is a domestic call within police departments, a lot of the police automatically think that it's the woman being beat and not the man, and that's where their mind is before they're even going to the call, and that's not fair. As
No.
I know, as being in law enforcement, you need to keep your mind open and not make any judgments until you have facts. So, unfortunately, when men are the victims of violence, they already have the cards stacked against them, and that's just not fair. But I want to encourage men out there to report and to keep themselves safe as well.
Yeah, so if you think about it, that number is not even remotely correct because a lot of them don't report it. I would love
No,
to know what the true number is.
yeah, in law enforcement, they call that the dark figure. There's the dark figure of crime, the dark figure of statistics. It's the cases that occur that aren't reported. It's the cases that we don't know about. They can give rough estimates on what that dark figure is, but they never really know. Honestly, I would think that it's probably pretty darn close to what it is with women.
I was thinking that too.
Yeah, I would probably say it's somewhere in 1 in 5, 1 in 4. I think it happens a lot more often because I think women will use that line, oh, what are you going to do? Are you going to tell somebody, or are you going to be weak, or nobody's going to believe you that a woman's beating on you? You know what I mean? And that's sad. I feel for those men.
Definitely.
So the impact doesn't stop at an individual level. It extends to families and entire communities. Children who witness domestic violence are more likely to grow up with emotional trauma, which can manifest in anxiety, depression, and a higher likelihood of themselves engaging in violent behaviors. In fact, a study from the CDC found that nearly 1 in 15 children are exposed to intimate partner violence each year. The cycle of violence can continue across generations if not addressed.
That's a lot. One in
Yeah.
15?
Yeah, so meaning that it's not solidified, don't get me wrong. I was a child of domestic violence. I was a child of abuse, and I have never laid a hand on my son. You can break those familial cycles. You absolutely can. But it's just saying they have seen those patterns that violence can be generational, meaning, you know, if there was domestic violence in my parents, then I continue with domestic violence, and then my son continues to, commit domestic violence, and so on and so on.
Yeah, it's like their normal way of just what they know.
Yeah, and when you're a child and you grow up and you see that, you think that that's what's normal, and yeah, that's why people need this knowledge too, not just the sad stories, but they need this education as well.
Right.
So, intimate partner violence also has a profound impact on the workplace, healthcare systems, and public safety, with studies estimating that domestic violence victims miss almost 8 million days of paid work annually.
Wow.
These losses are not only financial, but contribute to the broader societal and economic toll that domestic violence takes. So, domestic violence is not just an individual problem, it's a societal problem. It's a public health issue that affects all of us. We all have a responsibility to help break the cycle of abuse and support those who are suffering. Recognizing the warning signs of abuse is key to preventing further violence. These signs may also include extreme jealousy, possessiveness, or controlling behaviors. The perpetrator may try to isolate the victim from their family and friends, constantly belittle or humiliate them, and use threats or physical violence to maintain their control over the victim. Some abusers may use manipulation tactics to create financial dependence, making it harder for the victim to leave. Others may use children as pawns, threatening them in order to keep the victim from seeking help. Understand these warning signs is the first step to addressing the issue. Whether you are the person experiencing abuse or someone who cares about someone who might be. Victims also often feel trapped in these relationships, believing they have no way out or that they don't deserve any better. Fear, shame, and a lack of financial independence are just a few of the barriers preventing people from seeking help. However, there are resources that can make all the difference, whether it's local shelters, helplines, legal aid. Support is always available for those who choose to take the first step. You know, being a good friend is a good step too,
Absolutely.
having somebody that you can trust and call and say, hey, I'm in trouble. I need help. This is what's happening. The National Domestic Violence Helpline offers confidential support 24/7. The number, and Nyoka, if you wouldn't mind to put it in the show notes, is 1-800-799-SAFE. In addition, they have a text service available you just text START to 88788, which allows people to reach out discreetly. If you're not a phone talker, you can text. There's also an online chat option at thehotline.org where individuals can access resources, safety planning, and more. And I actually went to these websites, and it's kind of cool because if you're on this website, it doesn't log it into your browser history. So that way, if your abuser gets on your computer after you and tries to look at what you were just looking at, they can't find it.
That's brilliant.
And they also have a special keystroke too, that if you're looking at the website and they tend to walk in on you, you hit a button and it just shuts down the website.
That is amazing. I had no
Yeah.
idea.
Yeah, that way you don't have to be scared to pull up these websites and to look at this stuff. And they won't ever call you back, anything like that. So you don't have to worry about, quote unquote, getting caught. There's also local organizations and shelters across the country offering a range of services, including temporary housing, counseling, legal assistance, and job training to help survivors rebuild their lives. Many cities also have domestic violence courts where victims can seek protective orders and access services without the fear of retribution. Additionally, there are advocacy programs that work on prevention, educating the public about the signs of abuse and how to intervene safely. Communities can help break the cycle of violence by being informed and supportive of those in need. Liaison's death is heartbreaking, but Regalato's story is an urgent call to action that serves as a reminder that unchecked Unchecked emotional distress, especially coupled with a history of abuse, can have tragic consequences. However, domestic violence is a preventable tragedy, and we all have a role to play in addressing it. By recognizing the signs of abuse, offering support to those in need, and making resources more accessible, we can all contribute to ending domestic violence. No one deserves to live in fear, and we all have the power to make a difference.
I love that. If you or someone you know is experiencing domestic violence, please reach out. Your safety is paramount, and help is available. Thank you for listening to today's episode. Let's continue to raise awareness, make a difference, and support those who need us most. Thank you so much for joining me again, Mandi. I really appreciate your help on this, and I did like a brief research, and she just turned it into this amazing outline, and I really appreciate your help.
Of course, always. This is one of the things that is very, very important to me and very close to my heart. Like as I said, and I don't mind sharing openly that I was a child of abuse. My mother is a domestic violence survivor. Bless her heart, she is a badass woman. And we try to share education the best that we can with people. And I appreciate you for giving this platform to do things like that, to get that word out there and to get the help out there that that people need. And you're a different kind of platform too, because you never know that there could be a victim out there telling their abuser, oh, I'm listening to Operation Evil, it's a true crime podcast, but then they come across this episode.
Oh,
You see what I
I
mean?
never thought of it that way. I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's those offhand episodes in those podcasts that people don't realize that spread the word a little bit more. And I'm
Oh,
more than happy to be here and help that.
thank you so much.
Thank
If
you.
if you can't get enough Operation Evil, consider supporting the podcast by joining Patreon or Operation Evil Plus on Buzzsprout. When you join, not only will you have access to exclusive bonus episodes, but you will also get a shout out on an episode. We currently have over 40 exclusive bonus episodes ready for you to binge on. The links to join can always be found in the show notes. If you can't join our Patreon or Operation Evil Plus, consider supporting us for free by rating our show, telling a friend about the podcast, and liking and sharing our Facebook page. We appreciate each and every one of you. We'll be back next time with a new episode. Goodbye.
Goodbye. Be safe.
Thanks for listening.